and teaching, but you need to be aware of this, you need to be willing to do this, and you need to do it. So this charter tries to at least raise the point that this is an option that you can do, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you can actually try to use the ECDS system as it stands for flexible education provision. It also makes the point, for instance, that universities themselves should be role models for lifelong learning. And there, the teacher training aspect, as Michael mentioned, is a very relevant point. Secondly, universities can't do it on their own. And while I'm speaking for the university side, and I'll explain to you what we are doing as EOA to improve the communication about the charter and the implementation, I'm still not sure what governments have taken out of this charter idea. But as you can see, in many continental European countries at least, I wouldn't say the UK, a legal framework is the starting point for introducing change in the system. So if you don't remove the legal obstacles, then you're in for trouble. And that's exactly where we want to see some progress as institutions, that actually action is taken to identify what is hindering, from a legal perspective, universities in implementing more flexible provision of learning, and then also obviously to see what can be done about removing these obstacles. And some countries are doing it and some countries are not, but maybe at the European level there could be a more systematic approach to identifying this. Some of you might know the Trends 2010 report we published this year. It's a study on the implementation of Bologna and education reforms in general. It's been published usually in the year of the Bologna ministerial meeting, except for this year. And it tries to give a picture of how universities implement the Bologna reforms. In this version of Trends, we also ask questions, or we ask questions about lifelong learning all the time, but this was the first Trends report after the lifelong learning charter was adopted. So we asked also about the strategies, whether universities have a strategy in lifelong learning, and if not, whether they provide activities that qualify as lifelong learning activities. And what we could see is that there are not many more countries or institutions that have lifelong learning strategies. The increase is not worth mentioning, I would say. But we do see that in nearly all universities, at least, you see a range of activities ranging from children's universities to science labs to continuing education, which is the big topic if you talk about lifelong learning for universities. They also think it's continuing education only. So there are activities, and the question is, how can you channel this into a strategic approach? And this is actually what we're trying to do in a project we're actually conducting together with the European Access Network, the European Association of Distant Teaching Universities, and the European Continuing Education Network. So 4 European organizations are conducting a project that is designed to test the implementation of the lifelong learning strategies. But more important than that, it's there to support universities in developing and enhancing their lifelong learning strategies, and to view their activities from a strategic perspective. We also try to, and that's what I'm doing here, I guess, disseminate what we're doing and trying to bring the dialogues with other universities, governments, and stakeholders to reality, and to see whether we can elaborate the role of universities in lifelong learning to more concrete proposals than what we set in the charter already. There are 29 universities participating in this EU-funded program from 18 different countries, and we were conducting a 2-year project. So we've had the first year. I'm actually going to Vienna after this conference to do a workshop with our participating universities. We've had all universities conduct a SWOT analysis on what they are currently doing in the field of lifelong learning. And this meeting in Vienna I'm going to will now be about presenting the strategies that have designed or redesigned over the course of the last half year. We focus on 4 topics: widening participation, continuing education, using technology to enhance teaching and learning, and regional collaboration. It may be interesting to share with you here today, and also for the discussion later on this afternoon and tomorrow, some of the topics we have identified as challenges are probably challenges for many of you as well. There's, for one, the discussion on access and widening participation, and we really noticed that with 29 universities discussing access issues, you already noticed that a lot of dialogue is still needed to find a common language, because we all have a different understanding on what access means and what widening participation means and what underrepresented groups mean. The recognition of prior learning, although existing in some of the countries participating or some of the institutions participating, remains a big question mark, both in terms of purpose and in terms of making it more known. Why do we need it? How can it enhance for those that have it? Even though we have it, how can it become more popular? There are lots of questions there. It's very, very difficult to address this. Offering flexible learning programs, modularized, having the student choice when they do things, very difficult. Offering things in courses in the evening or the weekends, not always possible. Offering parts of the courses online and parts of them in the classroom, also a big challenge. Partnerships within the university, between faculties, between the universities and employers, between universities and regional authorities. Everybody wants to do it, but nobody knows how. The consequences of the lifelong learning agenda, if you are serious about a diversified student population, what do you do with your student services? How do they come in? Very big question mark there. On funding, continuing education is often seen as a milk cow for universities. That's not sustainable either. You can't, attach only the funding question to this aspect, but also ask the question why these masters are flexible in provision and all other masters are not. Good questions being asked. And then finally, the challenge of creating a strategy that actually involves academics. And here I can pose the question to you. Sometimes the leadership has great visions and ideas, but they don't really get very far. 5 minutes? 4 minutes, that's perfect, I'm only done. No, 4 I had. So this graph just wants to show you the long road of having a vision and mission to improving success and quality in lifelong learning and provision. And it passes by various steps from having a vision as an institutional strategy formulated to governing this vision, bringing it to the academic staff, generating ownership, acceptance, finding the right stakeholders to cooperate with in your region, outlining a roadmap, how you want to achieve what you have set out, who do you want to target, which niche do you want to play at, important questions if you want to take a strategic decision, following the implementation plan, and then finally, hopefully getting at research-based higher education that is provided in a lifelong learning modus, and measuring that you're actually successful in this. These points I go quickly, very quickly, I promise. I will not break my 4 minutes, which are 3 now. A 4-point agenda for the European higher education. This is how EOA views the future. First thing is, lifelong learning is not enough. We're talking about lifelong access to learning. This is an important point. Secondly, I'll go through this if my slides do. We think that we should talk about the interlinkage between creativity, quality, and innovation in a more structured way so that they actually balance each other, that the accountability versus improvement is kept in balance, but also that creativity is nurtured and maintained at institutions. We think that Europe is in need of a European identity in the world, and that we should be conscious about the European identity and also work towards fostering it. And then finally, and this is maybe most interesting to the European Union, this is somehow how we view the world. I mean, we work as a university body with both research and higher education, and we work in the European research area boards and working groups, and the higher education area working groups, and we see a great need to find the synergies between the two and work towards the European knowledge area. There we go.
Thank you very much. And now there is time for one question, okay?
One only.
Yes, one.
Thank you very much. I didn't know that there is only one opportunity, but I'm really happy.
Always very quick.
Okay, I'm Alexander from Armenia. Thank you very much for the interesting presentation. I just wanted to ask a question about demand in lifelong learning. This is about, do you have any information, at least within the European level, let's call them like from the potential customers of lifelong learning, because there are a lot of and I would love to hear also some information about the psychological challenges that people are having, like the stereotypes, complexes that they need to overcome in order to become involved in those projects. Because we talk about the systems, we talk about what we need to improve in order to have them involved, but we don't make the target of the people. How we should work with them. So the psychological aspect and the demand. Thank you very much.
Okay, a very interesting question. Let's start with the demand. If I start at continuing education, and I said continuing education is often seen as an income-generating aspect. Actually, one of the positive aspects of this is that it actually cares about its potential customers. So it does look into what's demands are out there and provides a customer built around provision of education that for a need that exists. So in that sense, but that's only one aspect of the lifelong learning story. If we talk about more demand-driven higher education as such, it's a whole different set of issues. And we know from the statistics that the population of students has certain needs because of how they generate their income to survive and so on. So from that perspective, we also know that there might be a market or a need to change your system so that it becomes more flexible. Second part of the question, stereotypes. I think there are a lot of stereotypes towards working with adult students, working with mature students, especially for professors that have never worked with adult students before. There's a fear that they might actually know too much or that they know too little. But actually comforting about that is that once you've done these type of courses, they usually are much more positive about teaching a mixed group of students, for instance, because of the rich discussions that you can have. And it's a bit what Michael said about the diversity in the classroom. If you can have a good diversity in the classroom, you get interesting discussions.